Mute. Caleb, can you hear? I know. Wait, let me see your message. Yeah, I know we're on mute. We're not on mute anymore. Can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you. Thank you.
All right, hold on. I gotta fix the volume. Try that again, Caleb, will you?
I can hear you. Yep.
All right, great. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
All right.
Yep. As soon as Derek's ready, we'll thank you. Ready to go? Caleb is there. He's just testing our sound. Welcome, everybody. I'm Derek Goodine, Town Manager of Castine. Thank you for coming. I'm going to introduce our facilitator, the moderator for the evening. We welcome the community, and I'd like to introduce Todd West to my left as facilitator. Todd will be our Master of Ceremonies and facilitator. He comes to us from the local nonprofit Rural Aspirations, where he serves as its operational director, collaborative project, and collaborative project coordinator. He has a celebrated track record as a high school principal in Deer Isle and middle school principal in Bucksport, well qualified to keep us in line. He also was a big inspiration on my youngest daughter, who was a middle school teacher at Bucksport, so I thank him for that also. There you go.
Right. Yeah, thank you, Derek, and welcome everyone. I'm glad you could make it. We've got an interesting agenda tonight to talk about woodlands and treescapes in town. I'm from Woodlands, so I'm not a local landowner or anything like that, but I do make frequent use of both the streetscape and the woodlands around town. If you've ever seen a crazy white labradoodle dragging its owner along the roads, that would be me. So, but we're here tonight because it's got quite a long name. The Castine Community Environment and Woodlands Planning Project is looking for some input and feedback from the community at the start of a process, really to give them direction so that they can come back in July and kind of show, have developed some plans and projects that I'm just going to talk about that are responsive to and really answer your questions and are useful to you. So we're looking to solicit some input about community member interest, concerns, and questions about the health and resiliency of the trees and woodlands in Castine. The information that's collected will help shape the content and emphasis of the analysis and recommendations for follow-up action. So I just want to really stress that the partners who are involved in this project really want this to be a two-way street. They're not coming to you tonight to say, here's our plans, what do you think? It's really even a step or two before that of what should we be making plans for, and what do we want to make sure is part of those plans. So the agenda is designed to elicit information that can be used to create products or resources that are useful to the full range of those who interact with or benefit from trees and woodlands in town. So our agenda is basically three parts. We've got an opening where we're going to hear from some of the partners involved in the project. The real core of the night is the table discussion. We had table discussions, but tonight we're going to have a table discussion. And that's really an opportunity for you all to talk with each other and folks here and explore some of these ideas and help get your thoughts and ideas out there. And then we're going to end with the Q&A. it's, you know, with a smaller group, I think those two pieces will probably flow into each other a little bit. I don't know that they're gonna be distinct parts. And then we'll definitely wrap up by 7:30. So I wanted to just let each person who's up here on the distinguished panel share a little bit about their role in this project, starting with Ina Schoenberg, the grant writer.
Thank you very much. We provided a handout, which hopefully you all have, that details the broad objectives and outcomes that we're looking for in this project. It's essentially a planning grant, and the ultimate aim is to improve community capacity, technical resources, and collaborative practices that together can help woodland owners, town owners, oversight groups to promote healthy, diverse, and resilient woodlands. And so we do this by working on sort of three different goals. So one is about plans. So we're developing what might be kind of an aspirational town-wide plan with a status report that describes the woodlands and the streetscape trees and provides options and recommendations for all of us. And also, our deliverables include 3 site-specific forest management plans on publicly accessible properties that will include the development of demonstration plots for forest management activities. The follow-up objective is to supplement the town elm ordinance to assign responsibility to increase attention on the health and diversity of trees and woodlands more broadly, and identify options for landowners to apply good practices. So it's not, you can tell everybody what they must do, but it's going to assign responsibility and identify options. And then our methods are important. So we're working with the local trust organizations, education organizations like the Wilson Museum, as partners in planning these activities. We're accessing terrific expertise and identifying educational opportunities up front. So,
I can, or is it easier just to pass it?
just maybe pass it along. So, Jacob.
Hi everyone, I'm J.W. Harriman. I'm the Conservation Forester representative from the Woodland Heritage Trust, and I'm here just to provide a brief overview of the forest status report that I mentioned. The goal of that document will really be to, at a very large scale, look at what Castine has: forest type, number of acres of forest land, riparian water resources, and then address some potential concerns: changing climate, invasive species, pest and disease that would be applicable for the town, and then tie in documents that others will later talk about to provide that framework as kind of an outreach component to landowners in the town. As, okay, I have X, Y, or Z. I see that reflected in the status document, and this is maybe where I should consider going from there. So we're kind of treating this as a large, broad overview document that will then supplement the 3 deliverable forest management plans.
Hi, I'm Kevin Alcroft. Probably can hear me without the microphone.
But we need it for the.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. I'm a consulting forester. I started my career, I'll give you a little background history. So I'm the consulting forester that's working on a management plan, but I started in '85, 10 years behind an international paper, which is the mill in Old Town, which is not there anymore. And then the last 35 years, I've been working for myself on private woodlands. So when they asked me to do it, we're going to be writing, I want to be very clear, forest management plans on 3 sites. We've chosen Greenby, which is owned by the town and managed somewhat by Blue Hill Heritage Trust, sorry, I don't want to say that wrong. What I'm calling the transfer dumps town on, that's the second one. I know they're adjoining. And the third one, they're telling me is called Hatch Cove, which is a small lot here on the peninsula, owned by Blue Hill Heritage Trust. So there'll be 3 separate forest management plans showing how they work on a small scale. I'll be very clear. Forest management plan written by a forester, yes, we'll know everything that's out there for trees, but it isn't just about forestry. It's about everything else you might want to do. You, as a town, want to do trails, or you want to do something else. If you want to do forestry, we'll talk about it, but that's forest management plan encompasses everything that you can think of that could happen on the land out there. And then I'm also going to help, they've asked about some teaching, probably somehow at the Wilson Museum, they'll show how forestry inventory is done. I walked in her forest, unfortunately. It's not much of a forest, but I'll find a way so that she can have some teaching way for young students at no age of how forestry figures out what we have in the woods. That's my plan.
Kevin, unlike these two very impressive experts to my right, I am not a forester, nor am I an arborist. I'm a retired biologist. And I happen to have found myself in a position of becoming the tree warden for the town of Castine and chairing the tree committee. And I really enjoy it very much because really it focuses on our elm trees. We work under the auspices of the elm tree ordinance, and that has some weight to it. And we have power to deal with certain matters in town and spend money. The money that we work off of is basically two parts. One is the budgeted amount that we are awarded every year at town meeting. It's about $25,000. It's fantastic. Plus, we have a fundraiser every fall, and we are very fortunate to have many very generous and caring townspeople who supplement our budget up to $15,000 to $20,000 a year, which is really, really impressive fundraiser. We're delighted about that. What our activities are during the year are identify trees that may be sick, that are not treated, versus treat the trees that are scheduled to be treated. We have 3 groups of trees that are treated by root flare injection with Arbotect, which is a fungicide which is specific for Dutch elm disease fungus, as well as a disease that affects sycamore anthrax. It's effective for both of those, and also it's found to be effective for beech leaf disease, which is affecting our town now. So we have groups of trees every year. There's another group. We go back to the first group after 3 years, and that's a cycle. About 75 trees total. They're all streetscape trees. They're our favorite elm trees that we love. The trees that we don't feel warrant treatment because it's expensive, we leave to the vagaries of Mother Nature, and a couple of those have had to come down in the past. So our efforts are prevention of disease, maintaining those trees. We also have the power to work with a private tree owner who has an elm tree in their property, and there are certain requirements if their tree shows disease that they must follow in terms of removal and timing, and our consequences with fines if they don't follow those requirements. We encourage private homeowners to live with a tree not on the streetscape, which is on either side of the road, 35 feet from the center home, to treat their tree. We realize it's expensive. Most people don't treat their trees, but we have at least 3 private property owners that do pay to treat the trees they have, which is fantastic. Another aspect of what we do is replanting, and that is getting a little tough these days because of new diseases coming into Castine due to warming climate. We have several trees, only a few trees that we consider are pretty hardy that won't fall victim to disease. One of them being the tulip tree, the area in front. The other one is black gum. We planted one of those, and we want to plant a white elm. We got that long tree this past year. So those are the 3 we're working with now. You will notice that, of course, many of you may remember that back in 2000 and 2003, the town went crazy with replanting elm trees all over the place. Anyone who wanted an elm tree in their front yard got an elm tree. And we've discovered since then that those trees are of they were called so-called disease-resistant trees. We have found out since that those trees are of the cultivar Liberty, and they do not have a good track record for disease resistance, which is unfortunate. Others that have been planted are the Princeton cultivar, the Valley Forge cultivar, and the actually Asian hybrid tree called Accolade, which there are 3 of them on common, and there's one down by the clinic, and one on Black Lake. Those are considered highly resistant to fungus. So that's our tree replanting to date. We're trying to steer away from creating another monoculture of elm trees throughout the town, which could be wiped out by another disease coming through. So those are our efforts, and we want to continue in that vein and ask for advice from the state and anyone else on proper selection of species for replanting.
So I'm Julia Gray, Executive Director of the Wilson Museum. I'm pretty sure you all know that, just like everybody else up here. So the Wilson Museum became involved early conversations I had with Ina about how we could be an educational space around this project, because one of the things that I see coming out of anything like this is how can we engage a broader group of the community across communities and learning from the project and learning about it. And we have a commitment at the museum to really engage our entire campus, so not just our indoor spaces, but also our outdoor spaces. We have 5 acres of interesting vegetation, and we have some adjacent vegetation that influences our existing property and so on. And we also have an organizational commitment to be a part of the solution to climate change. And so how can the trees and we are engagement with the trees, and how can we help other folks learn about how the trees in our lives can be part of our commitment to be part of the solution to climate change, and how can they help build planet resilience and so on. So we're excited to kind of on the tail end of the project, take some of the learning that has happened and provide opportunities for kids, but also general visitors to be able to learn about forest management and the story of forest management in Castine and how they can be involved in that sort of thing. So I've learned a whole lot just from being part of it. So yeah.
Yes, I also wanted to mention that joining us virtually is Caleb Jackson, the Associate Director of Stewardship for Maine Coast Heritage Trust. He wasn't able to be here tonight. Is he able to speak?
Caleb, you want to say something?
Can people hear me at all?
Yes.
Oh, you can? Okay. Hi, everybody. I'll give a short blurb. Might as well. My name is Caleb Jackson. I'm the Associate Director of Stewardship for Maine Coast Heritage Trust, and Maine Coast Heritage Trust, as many of you probably know, stewards the Witherly Woods property. Excuse me. Did that help or hurt? Can you hear me?
Good, Caleb.
Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Yeah, as an organization, we 50,000 acres of conserved land, and oh, my thing just shifted over. I'm so sorry. But about 47,000 acres, and each property is unique. And I have the privilege to say that I helped steward the Witherly Woods parcel for about 8 years before I took on my current job with Maine Coast Heritage Trust, and it was a transitional period for the forest, and it still very much is in transition, which you can see out there. But in our work, we deal with forest pests of many kinds of invasive species, plants and insects, and restoration projects along the coast. And I was actually just working on a project. We have emerald ash borer in Nowfoot, out of Indiana, which is brand new now. Keep an eye out for all those ash trees out. Sorry, there's a really heavy feedback loop.
You sound good for us.
You do? Okay.
There's some lower.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, but I guess Maco's Heritage Trust participation in this process here. I'm here to answer any questions anyone might have about Witherly Woods, and then ultimately we will participate in the final product potentially to share some of the ongoing forestry management techniques that are going out there at Witherly, the things that we're considering, what we're looking for in walking race trails and whatnot, and potentially pursuing those goals. Sorry, the feedback is really loud. I'm gonna.
Yeah, thank you, Caleb. Appreciate that, and appreciate you joining us from afar. So for those of us in attendance around our table, we're gonna move to our table discussions, and everyone should have a copy of the agenda, but more importantly, it's a place to write down some of your initial thoughts. The team here is hoping that these first two questions on the first page in the green box, what are your questions about and priorities for streetscape trees and woodland throughout the town? And then second box on the second page, what documentation, tools, or activities will be helpful to support healthy and resilient trees and woodlands in multiple ways throughout towns? They're hoping that you'll just jot some of your thoughts down there, and they're going to collect them so that they, at the end, so that they can use it as part of their thinking and thought process and make sure that they don't lose anything that's been mentioned or that you're thinking. So we're hoping that you'll take 5 minutes individually to jot down your thoughts on those first two questions, and then have a conversation at your table. Now that there's 7, do you want to split them into 2 or leave them?
I guess maybe we can split it.
Okay. We'll leave it out. Yeah. So maybe, yeah, we can move into 2 groups. Some of the partners can join you, but when we get to that point, I would just ask that each table could have someone take notes on the blank piece of paper, not detailed notes, but just we talked about this and this and this, just topics, again, so that that's captured and that the group can really use that to help steer their thinking going forward. So I will stop talking and give you 5 minutes or so to answer those questions. If you need an agenda or something to write with, it should be on the table there.
Question?
Yes.
Are you looking, you're looking all over the area from here to Blue Hill, not just Castine? All right.
I think we're focused on Castine for the purposes of our report, but if you want to add some comments about the importance of collaborating or working with our neighbor towns, that's okay too.
I'm glad we're focusing just on Castine.
Yeah, that's the primary. Our reports are going to focus on within the border of Castine. Yeah, do this one. That's it. And I was also.
They actually have well, so the great. Whatever that cycle is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all birds. That's why I'm saying you even use. Exactly. They have the pressure. So maybe we'll be able to. No, obviously. No. I was just more curious.
May I ask a question? I just learned that you're going to do, sorry I got here late. I just learned that you're going to do some type of a demo or presentation of a log and touch code.
It's a thing, you're gonna work on 3 different lots, three site plans.
Got the forest management plan on 3 sections. It's just.
Where in touch code? Oh, is this Blue Hill Heritage?
Blue Hill Heritage Trust property.
That's, okay, gotcha, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically. Yeah, that's, yeah. And so it's I used to work. Oh, yes. I checked. It's me. Come back. If you the new one, yeah, upstairs. Oh, yeah, no, it was, okay. Oh, there used to be one in the big hall. Oh, yeah. Oh. Oh.
Yeah.
Are we getting any questions on N2?
Yes, questions
Sorry.
on it.
Problem child, always, all right. No worries.
Questions 1 and 2.
I was always
Yeah.
the worst one.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And we were thinking it might make sense, maybe in the next 10 or 15 minutes, if you could come up with, like, what are the 3 either top questions that you have as a group, or mix of questions, concerns, thoughts, that you want to put out to this group that they can then give you some initial feedback on tonight. So, as a group, if you're able to kind of, like, what are the top 3 things that bubble up? Yeah, if you like.
Coming back to the 2. But I obviously haven't done number 2. I'll be secretary. You can run that too, I mean, that's what me. Should we zero in on the 3 questions? What did people ask? Well, I'm ready. Okay. I do it either.
You might have thought he was eavesdropping.
She was your name special? Yeah. Yeah, I do too.
Tell us what you're thinking.
Yeah, 3 months, 3 is free, I've seen people purchase property on that, but almost every small tree in between large trees means no place for native animals.
Well, I don't want to know, but I'm saying you guys have something
CO2. And in fact, they're dead, they're not.
People like the, very big.
So, I think, as far as.
So I'm saying, yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, you wouldn't do it where you didn't have that.
You know, property owners are used to being able to grow what they want, but I think that this is our entry point.
I'm just saying, it's compared to.
So, I think that we should just work with
That.
Also interested in maybe you can have this there might be a tree that might be better at it at first. While maintaining aesthetics.
And I'm sure that they're making. That's what,
That's not something.
I use cleanup.
Haircut, kind of like.
No, we did.
Yeah? Your son did? It's perfect. That's what they're talking about.
But
Yeah, sometimes you gotta to make the property. And killing, getting all the undergrowth and material that's there that's all dead, which you've done. And
that Sheila is, that I think.
I think
And so
specific.
how do we find the medium there?
Well, it's dead. Just make an issue. I mean, certainly flashes. Right. But if that's a really nice part of the property. What?
If it's dead, then move it to another part of the property
Yeah, that's true.
or possibly sell it for fires.
But my major concern, you know, when there was cited and everybody was all excited, it was not too long after all cutting. That was fairly close. You know, my guess up there lost its place, you know, it's quickly is coming back from the microphone. I do. But I don't know, what are you thinking more deep?
You're thinking, I don't want to call it aesthetic clearing. You know, if the bittersweet was all over and so.
Oh, I noticed that right out in the field, going up the spruce.
So we had a machine dig up the bittersweet. We put out things that. Were live, but it become. And we felt. So. I'm sort of. Balancing that against your wish, everything. Let nature do it. That's what I think.
If we were to let nature do it, we would have to do control burns, right? But what I'm seeing is somebody like buying a property, and just cutting them. That I find very. That's allowed. Cut down. So many, because the house was not there.
Another idea that I trying to find a happy between these two is so instead of basically going full steam ahead on clear cutting everything versus just banning everything is having like some sort of quota, for lack of a better term, like okay, you can cut 5% of the trees on your property this year, or
Yeah, I do that and it doesn't take long to work through them all. Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah, and I think that's part of like Kevin's role in this project, right, as a forester, is to help think of what is a management plan, takes into account a broad variety of uses, benefits, you know, it depends a little bit on what you're cutting, right? Is it an invasive versus native, but
I do feel that native. But, you know, it's for example. Beautiful house. Right hand side, new first and bottom. They've cut down every tree. Not only that, he started cutting down trees on his neighbor's property. He had to stop it. It's a mindset for some people. No tree. But we need the trees. I personally think that house. Now.
so maybe it should be handled on a case by case. Maybe the tree cutting issue back.
Probably, yeah.
You know, there's a lot of things you have to take into account, like if most trees are basic species and gardening. And you know, we need more room for native species. I mean, I'm not talking about yes, I'll admit myself, the subject is but you know, that should be, they should, if, you know, like I said, you know, a person with a crap ton of invasive species on their property should be allowed to have that removed or otherwise contained versus.
I would definitely say yes.
Versus someone with a lot of native species. It's like, you get the land and get the whole package, but comes bad for better. And that's just my perspective, but I want to hear others.
I think that's excellent. I think that it would be great to be able to get rid of them.
No, I didn't know. I'm curious. All of you probably know this, but I'm sort of newbie. Are there specific mixes of trees that are better?
Support each other, sort of.
Like, yeah, like, I mean, what, if you want to plant,
kind of a diverse area, or, make the area a little bit diverse, what species go together? What species are good for each other? What I don't know these. So I would imagine that it does matter.
You do.
I don't know. I don't know. I know they do.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you were the forester.
No, I'm not.
Facilitator.
But I know a forester.
Okay.
You stay in a Holiday Inn Express last night?
And then, right, that could be an output, right, is like resource
That'd be great.
guidelines can sound a little restrictive, but just like, someone who's interested, how do I easily find these answers? Educate myself.
Yeah, and I think for other newer residents to the area, really nice resource. What are the invasives? What do they look like? How can you get rid of them? And without, but how you can get rid of them, and are there things you can plant that deter them or that kill them? Because if somebody can help me get rid of the knotweed in my yard, I'd be really happy.
Goats.
Goats.
Yeah.
This would be so mad.
You could put them in a fence.
Just keep moving the fence around.
I love that.
Forester said, you need help.
Excuse me, Derek.
I could even do it.
What
about?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to mention Andy, Jason, Lauren, Sullivan, Valerie.
Derek, can you hear me? Oh, I just wanted to give you a heads up that the tower actually is picking up the audio much better than your phone.
Is there anyone who has thoughts?
It is?
Questions, ideas?
Yeah.
Now, good.
No. The tower picks up the tower picks up the audio better than your phone does.
Okay.
Just a heads up. Sorry.
Other thoughts on number 2, documentation, tool, activities, you had mentioned like so you own land in town.
Right, sort of a document that you can get when you buy a house that says, all right, you want to do some landscaping, here's some guidelines or ideas or something. You got ideas.
And basically allows you to overlay different things together. I'm always curious if you could use that for possibly either with streetscape views or
How did you interpret it? Feel free to share.
Just aerial photos, any aerial photos from the past, which is interesting to compare because and they used to. Yeah, I had down here things that like documentation for in town, and like creating free ID cards, that sort of thing. Came down to the business. So I misread this.
Well, no, I think that's right on, and I think, you know, there's, like, when we talk about the school, there's multiple schools, right?
Yeah.
And other educational institutions.
Yes, there's some thoughts. I was there recently, and they had places that were interesting. They had to do research, but it all had to be in their own words.
Former middle school principal, this is, you know, the kids are great at counting images.
Yes.
If there's inventories that need to be done, right? How many of this type of tree?
That's right.
Sixth graders are really good.
I don't know how big these classes are, but you know, the education studies department at is pretty small. Level education, but if you have someone, who's, you know, local to the area, and that's
That's sweet. Yes, it can be. Well,
Several other Castine kids.
we will see that way. Anyone else want to?
They get it all.
And I did,
So, yeah, so thinking about how, our partners can be beneficial tonight and in the future. Are there specific issues, questions, ideas that you would prioritize to share with them tonight? Are there burning questions?
Is this question two?
It's kind of question 1 and 3 together. But it can be, I mean, it's any question you have.
So I'm gonna hit on three.
So there we go. And they would see. So we always did. So now, on your way, which is
Whatever.
Denver.
You don't have to be forced.
Right, something that can educate us. I like it.
Yeah, just some sort of classes or something for the residents to help us understand.
Yeah. Bring it up tomorrow.
See, good thing you came, right? Tell everyone who didn't, you missed a good time. That's right.
No, but what you guys did a good job. Picture perfect. And it's a cost, so. This is all great, but it all comes down to dollars and cents. You guys did it, and you're still picking away.
The birds in the garden, very sweet in the field. The number of times I walk in the garden, and out of the day, I'm rushing up to it. It's okay, I don't mind if I go somewhere.
And I was thinking specifically to Castine, you have the square, you have the, those are the two main places that we have to protect the town and the house. There's a lot of opportunities to make it good, but there's a lot of town involved, I gotta say, because there's so much storms. So much. 10 years ago, you could walk through the square as Woodland Woods, because Caleb worked to keep it clean and other people. You just walk off the path, you can't get to it. Yeah. Yes. I was there. Yeah, I got subscribed to hell for getting trying. I couldn't make it back to the road. And you know, we had a storm, chippers and palm and chippers, but it's huge money. And either lightning is going to hit, or some individual going to have a fire there.
Well, so
it's so like, you know, it's a beautiful, I'm the square, and not people walking in there like they do. They go to the Henderson, but they're not walking like they used to. Yeah. Then you have to make it. Urban Woods, always that. And you know, there's different spots that they, you know, there's trails from, you know, getting closest behind that house to Stewart, Niners, way behind Niners, all the way up, all the way around, and trails were there, but now they're, there's a lot of trails. So you can find it would take a lot of what a history.
Are you ready? All right. Anyone specifically have All right, well, we had a good conversation over there at the main table. And we're gonna open it up for Q&A. There was a lot of conversation. I took some good notes, some other folks took some good notes. But the three, I was given permission to sort of synthesize and share the three main things that they wanted to make sure this group heard, was to please use only native species. That was a real theme. That whatever the plans are, make them user friendly, that your quote unquote average property owner could understand. And that there was a lot of talk about how to educate or offer things like classes, used very broadly, but how can you educate residents who are interested in, whether it's they have an acre or more, but want to do something, want to do it right, want to do it within this broader goal of making things sustainable and aesthetically pleasing. How do we do that without having to hire a force? So,
I'm not looking for jobs.
So I don't know if anyone has any initial reactions or if there's any questions out there that we want to field.
So I'll go back to what I said before. I'm writing a forest management plan because that's what the title is, and I am a forest. But the important thing to understand is it will cover anything that the town is interested in on the property that's available. We do an inventory, which is what I do. So we're out there, so I can tell you when we're done what you have statistically correct on the properties. We're doing the 3. So I'll know that you have so much red spruce, so much white pine, maybe red. What we know what's out there. JW found some sugar maple, which surprised me and makes me happy. So we'll understand that, and diversity will be, that's the basis for the plan. Then the next step is, what do you want to do? What does the town want? And what do the townspeople want? All forest management documents, I realize speaking of public record, are working documents. When I do this privately for any one of you individually, it would be a document that doesn't go anywhere, but if in 3 years you want to change your mind or something changes, it's a working document. It's not set in stone. This will be a little different because it goes to the town, but if we cover everything, and I don't know, I want to be really clear, I have no idea what the town wants. Does anybody want clubwood? I have no idea. So I'm not going with any bias toward that. Do they want to have more trails like they have on Green Bay? I don't know. Do they want to do something to help wildlife, forest resilience? I mean, there's all these things that we're going to look at. We were 2/3 of the way through the inventory. So that's the first step. What's out there? And not just the trees, but everything that's out there, and then we'll go on from there. But it will be, hopefully, we cover everything that anybody would be interested in. Does that help?
I've been asked to speak a little bit about the overview report, some of the data sets we've been using. Foremost of which, because this is a large scale report, we're looking at the entire town of Castine, almost as if you were an eagle to fly over it. We use a lot of LiDAR-based, photogrammetry-based, in layman's terms, remote sensing data. Those are aerial photos. There's this cool thing now called LiDAR, so light detecting and ranging. Think radar, but with light beams. The state provides this data. Why am I looking at stuff like this? It'll tell me things like tree height, canopy height. It'll also tell me what's underneath the trees on the ground. So it makes it really easy to pick out wetlands, stream corridors, cellar holes, wells, past land use districts, to try to paint this picture of Castine over the last 100, 150 years. That's so you can make projections going into the future. And this large overview report won't be very detailed and specific, but it will be a metric for the town.
And if there's any like lost Mayan temples and stuff like that.
Yeah, stuff like that, LiDAR finds here.
If I find gold.
Gravel deposits. Gravel gold.
Something new.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, any specific questions that you would like to ask anyone up here?
Come on. What do you think of the plan? What do you think of all this?
All of this,
All of this, the canopy plan?
it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
It's great we're having this success.
Where do you see it
Professionals
going?
advise on what we've got. We've got to know what we have first before we know what we want to do with it.
Where do you see it going? What
Well,
will we do with it?
one of the discussions has been, should the elm tree ordinance be augmented by what our findings are? And personally, I think the elm tree ordinance should focus only on the elm trees. It is a law, essentially. We have power to fine people, etc. So there's a what you can and cannot do on your property regarding an elm tree.
Yeah.
I don't think that is something that this finding should be doing. We should provide recommendations to our property owners. They may not have any idea what to do with their land, with their tree, woodlots and so forth, but if they wanted to do some cutting for financial reasons, there should be a method of doing that that's appropriate and does not destroy their land, as some people have done.
Yeah.
That kind of thing is my feeling, and it should not be necessarily add on to the elm tree ordinance. But I think the more knowledge we can provide to everyone in town about what we have, so when people drive around, they know what they're looking at, particularly the elm trees and other streetscape trees. Part of my summary here that I wrote is what we've planted, as I mentioned, for elm trees, but also what we've planted for non-elm trees, and where they are, where each general is located. So people will know what they're looking at. When you drive into Castine, you see elm trees along, elm trees, yeah, there are elm trees along the third fairway there. Some of them are Princeton, some of them are Valley Forge. Find out from me or anybody else which is which. I know exactly which is which. They're different. They form a different kind of crown. You can see that. But in general, I think for recreation purposes, people love Woodley Woods. They love going out there. They ought to know what they're looking at. They ought to know what species. Many people already do, but others may want to know what they're looking at, what the invasives are. It would be great to get target invasive, in particular, Japanese knotweed and bittersweet, which is getting rampant. It's a little more difficult with barberry. It just keeps coming back. That's another one that encourages ticks.
The town is very healthy barberries.
Yeah, we have lots of that. So people ought to know what they're looking at. And I don't know if there could be a program for gradual removal of some of the invasives. These guys would know more about that. That's kind of my sense of it.
Thank you.
And education for the townspeople and the property owners.
I had heard something within the past couple of weeks within the state where there was going to be somebody going to a town and helping that town remove invasives. Figure out a plan to remove invasives, but I don't remember details.
I don't know what that would involve, or what it would cost, the practicality of it, but it's something I think we should address, and that's what we can do.
Any other questions? And I just, we've got our 5 in-person folks here, but don't forget we've got Caleb also from Maine Coast Heritage Trust. So if you have a question for him.
Hi, Caleb. I've been through this before.
Sorry, I'm not there, everybody. I'm getting over a fever. I do have a lot of thoughts on some of those questions that were just asked. So,
yeah, go ahead, Caleb. Share those, please.
Okay, so to try to get in ahead of the feedback loop I'm getting here, I'm gonna actually mute my speakers. Thinking that might help. So I'm just gonna talk, and hopefully nobody is trying to interrupt. If you need to interrupt me, please just jump up and down and wave, and I will see you. But I can't speak for what the town, what the priority is for the town and what you all need and want. But oftentimes I think it's pretty easy to boil it down to sustainable, healthy forested lands or lands generally. And we have 2 major threats to that here. And it's negligence and abuse. I can kind of point at invasive species as a real threat to any kind of resilient forest, and invasive plant species, insect species, and whatnot will come in and dominate a piece of land that is disturbed in any way. And we have a lot of, die-off that happens on the coast of Maine from wind events and whatnot, and just because forests are aging out or they got neglected and single age stuff and just kind of thins out, and development and everything like that. So those invasive plants, if left alone, completely decimate areas. And Castine on neck there is a lot of barberry, which is actually really easy to remove if you use a chemical approach, and it's extremely responsive. Pulling invasives is not effective when it's at that kind of a level. But I know that there's good reason for resistance to using that approach. there in Castine with the water source being what it is. But contract services do exist to come in, and they work for DOT. We've contracted out in very specific spots that were completely inundated, and rehab sites turned a 4-acre field that was completely overrun with bittersweet and barberry and whatnot into a nice pasture with apple trees and a couple of nice spruce and whatnot. And it takes effort and diligence for a couple of years, and it is not a thing you can expect to be effective over the course of thousands and thousands of acres without thousands and thousands of dollars and human hours. But there are strategic approaches to it. So in Witherley, some of our forested landscape has been overrun by barberry specifically, and we kind of have to let it be like that unless we're going to grind it down into a pulp and try to turn it into a field or something else and mow it constantly. But anyways, I'm way off. I can keep talking forever because this is who I am. Excuse me, but I will say that the state of Maine has excellent resources for people who are curious about invasive species, who are curious about any kind of land management opportunities and whatnot. And so we could, and we had been talking as a group about compiling some of that into whatever final product we're coming up with and having it be something that is translated out. But I was going to say I said there was two things: abuse and neglect. Invasive species being the one of the telltales of neglect, and then forests just kind of dying off and falling apart is one of the signs of a changing landscape and a field that now is turning into a forest, and then 100 years later dies off in one big windstorm and whatnot. And then abuse. I know that Randy is there. I saw you, and I heard you mention a Witherley there. It's a big concern for the community, and I understand that. And it's not unique to this site. It is real, but these there's a thing called a wildland urban interface, which is kind of a more dramatic example of human communities next to large tracts of land and the dangers of those two places abutting each other and whatnot. But there are some really great management tactics that are incumbent on not only the land management entity, being Western Trust in my case, but also on local governments and also on individuals who abut the land. So education and managing your vegetation on your own property and whatnot, and maintaining forest breaks and all of those things. So it's like a large communal effort. So I know that we have some trouble out there in Witherley. It seems to ebb and flow, and right now we might be on a flow. Anyways, yeah, I will stop talking and let somebody else talk for a minute.
Thank you, Caleb.
Just as we've been talking about invasives, I know, Brooke, you had described to me some of the efforts that you made on your property and how they were successful. Could you briefly share those?
Well, it was,
Reach. I'm not sure if this works.
yeah.
Click it on, right, shut off.
They wanted YouTube this.
It was bittersweet, and we had someone come in and dig it up and take it away. Now, we don't know where it went, so it probably invaded somebody else, but it worked. I mean, we also mow it once a year, so that might help keep it down. But it was, it's a big project when we did it, but that was 15 years ago. And it's doing well, I think. I know it was easy. I mean, it was that simple. Costly, but simple.
And I think there's space at the transfer station, as you were just mentioning, where there's a burn pile. I mean, if we were to have a townwide concerted effort to address certain species, that might be part of the disposal solution. So there may be solutions. Grant, did you? Sure.
Gail and Meyer, we've been doing this a little while, him and I, and it's been a challenge for Woodlands. I can be loud enough if I have to. The town itself has some challenges. We really have to look at the square, and everybody know what I mean by the square, and the different properties owned by Conservation, Blue Hill, residents, and Woodlands. What is that, 92 acres, Caleb, thereabouts?
190.
Thank you. We've had some things to scare us, you know, people in the woods burning, having fires, and it's just students. We can't throw them under the bus. It's individuals that have come in kayaks, gone on, walk on, put the canoes and kayaks there, gone on, made a fire, sleeping there for the night. So it isn't just one, and it is a lot of people. Some of the proactive things that we're doing, because I'm concerned, because last year the drought and the way the weather was and the climate, it was very, very dry. And, you know, we can only do so much as a fire department and individuals. Unfortunately, some of the kids are gone during the summer, and we don't have all that manpower. So it's a bunch of older guys trying to get together, and we have to work to put something up. We've been very lucky. There's been several fires there over the years, and then we got there fast enough to contain them. But we're looking to make some changes by having forest horse all the way to Fifth, to reach all the way out to Blockhouse Point. We're looking to purchase, thank you to the individuals of Castine. We're looking to go side by side with a tank on it and pump. And that will be purchased here within a week and then delivered. So, and then keeping the pass open, which Caleb and his team has done, and some help from our guys and individuals in town. We have a chance to fight and to do if something does go wrong. And we don't ever want that, but we want to prepare ourselves so we can defend our community if we have to. And if people think it can't happen, they're mistaken. It can happen where I have to call in DC-9s, bulldozers, because it's people's homes right around my own house. There's a lot there. And as a community, I'm concerned, and we're trying to take proactive steps to minimize if we can get there quicker and what we can do. The underbrush, you know, the storms over the last 10 years, you cannot walk once you go off the trail by yourself in through the woods. The build up and the blowdowns is so thick, it's just changed. And there's not much you can do except for time, and it decays and goes into the ground. Or we bring in, and it's very costly, which Peabody was not Peabody, but the chipping company was here over the past 15 years ago there, I think. But at a lot of cost. So working with Caleb and his team, we're looking at signage. What else can we do to educate people about burning and what to do? So it's pretty much education right now. And as soon as the weather changes here in a few weeks, it will be a challenge. Because individuals are going to be in the woods, they're going to be doing it. We just got to come up with a good plan. Don't have it all the way yet, but we're working towards it.
You're working with the academy on the plan, because the academy students are not 100% of those that start.
No, they are not.
Can you repeat her question?
I used
Excuse
to
me?
live there.
Can you repeat her question?
Sure.
I know.
What?
Yeah.
I asked Randy if he was working with the Maine Maritime Academy, because while they're not all students that start fires, many of the fires are started by students. I used to live right next to the Woodlands, and I go back there and I saw, quite a bit of it. I talked to a bunch of students, some, they understand, you talk to them. They're out there having a party, basically, and they're not thinking. I don't think it's an evil intent. Making sure that we have discussion with them is important. And I imagine Randy is, but I just wanted to confirm it.
To answer that question, we've had many conversations, but we're looking into development planning. Now that Mr. Johnson is the president, and he is very excellent to work with, and he'll help work together to solve some of the problems. I'm very confident. He is the president.
Was he the?
He was. Any questions?
Probably have time for maybe one more question, if anyone.
Come on, Brooke, you like to talk? That's
Switching that on.
Sure.
Do anyone up here want to get a 90-second last word?
Oh, I suppose.
Like JW, anywhere near that.
I've been just making some notes in the margin and trying to make connections. It's typically what I end up doing. And to build kind of off Don's point and several of yours, I think one of the really important outcomes of this can be education. We don't all need to be experts. Please don't. Kevin and I really enjoy our jobs as something adjacent to experts. But I think one of the big important takeaways to me and why I'm excited about this project is we all live here. I don't personally live in Castine, but we all live somewhere here in coastal Maine, something very similar to Castine. We all love this place. We all care about it. We all want very, very similar objectives. We all want to be able to brand like 50 forests. We don't want things built in basics. We disagree sometimes about how we get to those goals, but we're all after the same thing. And I think one of the bigger points that really draws folks together when we're all after something similar is education. We talk about how we fire issues with college students out on the neighborhoods. I agree. I don't think that any of those individuals are malintentioned or looking to hurt things. They probably don't see the big picture. And I think one of the big takeaways here is that we provide tools to the general public. Is one of the big things I focus on in my work. Is one of the bigger, more powerful things you can do. Is when we all take a little bit of ownership that we live here, and we have value with the place, then that's when things start getting taken care of. As Caleb says, one of the big things is neglect. Or abuse, when people have ownership of the land and feel like it's part of their home. We don't see that as much. So that's my soapbox. Probably get off of
Thank you. Nice last words. Well done. So we're going to wrap up here. The next kind of public-facing step of this is in July. There's going to be another meeting. Tell everyone how awesome this was and how much fun it was, and bring at least 2 of your friends. But that's really, please either add to what I'm going to say or correct me, but you're going to spend the next few months kind of taking what you've heard here, taking some of the assessments and moving it into a plan that you're then going to bring back for some additional feedback and input at that point. Is that correct? So this is like stage one of the input. There's more input to come. This is a process. So we appreciate it. I speak on behalf of everyone here. Appreciate you coming tonight. Small group, but really great feedback. And that's all going to be collected and looked over and really synthesize some of those ideas. So your notes, if you wouldn't mind leaving them so that I can look over them and document them so that they can go into the plan as ideas and priorities. And thank you everyone for coming. Hope you have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I I just want to give a big thank you for all of our folks here today, as well.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, the rest of us, just got challenge trees down.
Yeah, I love her.